as we turn now to Cindy Sheehan, co-founder of Gold Star Families for Peace. Her son Casey killed in Sadr City in Baghdad, April 4th, 2004. She has authored a number of books, including Peace Mom, A Mother's Journey Through Heartache to Activism. Cindy Sheehan, welcome to Democracy Now!
Well, good morning, Amy. Thank you.
It's very good to have you with us. You have just flown home. Yesterday, you arrived in California. Tell us about your decision. On Memorial Day, many people around this country and the world read your painful letter saying it seems, at least for now, goodbye to your active role as one of the leaders of the peace movement in this country.
Well, it was not an easy decision, and it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision or a quick decision like going down to Crawford, Texas was very, spur-of-the-moment and very, very not thought out well, but it turned out well. Anyway, I've been thinking about it for a year when after last summer when I almost died, and I started thinking about pulling back a little bit, and after I regained some of my strength, I just went back into it full force. And it's hard to work within this movement that is so divided, that is so, really has a lot of negative energy. It's draining, it's drained my energy. And I used to, I still get so much support from so many people. But when, our new left really is just barely right of center, but when people there start criticizing me and calling me the same names that the right has been calling me, I think it's time to reevaluate, pull back, see what other direction we can come at this from.
Cindy, I remember reaching you in the hospital last year, not even knowing that you were ill, but explain what happened.
I was having gynecological problems, and in less than 24 hours, I lost almost half of my blood volume, so I had to go in. I had to have transfusions. I ended up having 2 emergency surgeries, and then, getting a really bad infection afterwards and having to go back to the hospital for a few days. So, it was, it was very symbolic, life draining. My lifeblood was draining out of me. So, that was really touch and go there for a little while, and I've got, regained some of my strength, but that was serious surgery, and it's my fault. I didn't give myself enough time to heal physically from it.
Cindy, can we go back? And I know this is extremely painful. April 4th, 2004, though you've spoken a great deal about it publicly in this country and around the world. Let's talk about your journey, the subtitle of your book, A Mother's Journey Through Heartache to Activism. When did you learn that Casey was killed?
Well, he was killed in California time. It was a little before 8 in the morning. I woke up at 9 a.m. It was amazing. It was the first day since he'd been gone that I felt any kind of lightness in my spirit. And I woke up, it was Palm Sunday. I went through a Sunday activity, cleaning house, doing laundry, shopping for the week, getting my clothes ready for the next week of work. And my ex-husband and I, who, I was still married to, Casey's dad, we were sitting down watching CNN and eating dinner. We had filet mignon that day. I remember what we were eating. And a report came on CNN. It showed a Humvee burning and said that 8 soldiers had been killed in Baghdad that day. And I looked at Pat and I said, one of them was Casey. And, he got very upset. He goes, well, he's only been there a few days. There's hundreds of thousands of soldiers there. Chances are it can't be Casey. It's statistically very slim that it was Casey. And we don't even know where he is yet. And I just said, I don't care what you say. One of them was Casey. And about 4 hours later, my worst fears were confirmed by the U.S. military.
And talk about your journey through that day. How did you cope?
When I was walking my dogs, I came home, I saw them standing in my living room. You know, I immediately collapsed on the floor. I was screaming, screaming, screaming. And I think, you know, it's, I don't know how I coped. You know, people start coming over, the time starts to just become a blur. You do a lot of drinking, you do a lot of laughing, you remember the good times in that period. But I think the thing that gets you through that horrible period is an intense shock. It's you know, a physical, emotional kind of shock that envelops you. And I remember I didn't go to sleep that night. I didn't go to sleep the next night because I didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to forget that Casey was dead and wake up and have to relive that experience. I was sitting on the porch swing about 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning after we heard Casey was killed. And I'm watching people get up and go to work, and I just wanted to scream at them, how can you live your lives when my son is dead? And you know, you're mad at the world for going on when your life has been destroyed and your very world is destroyed. Your whole universe becomes a different place. And then about 8 or 9 months later, the shock starts to wear off. And if you thought you were in pain before, that's when the real pain settles in.
And Cindy, how did you go from your private mourning to becoming more public, to speaking out? When was the first time that you spoke out after Casey died?
It was on the 4th of July, 2004, exactly 3 months after Casey was killed. I went to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Berkeley, California, to support another Gold Star mom, Jane Bright, whose son, Evan Ashcraft, was killed in Iraq in July of 2003. I went to support her because she came up to speak to their congregation. That's when I first physically met Bill Mitchell, whose son Michael was killed in Iraq the same day in the same incident Casey was killed in. And I didn't go there to speak, but I was compelled to speak. And since then I haven't shut up. So that was the first time, and it was, you know, very meaningful, I think, that it happened on Independence Day, that I found my voice and I found really my independence from this country that is so destructive to so many people.
Cindy, when you went to Crawford and established Camp Casey in memory of Casey in August of 2005 and said you wanted an hour of the president's time coming from that Dallas Veterans for Peace convention, you had met with the president before. Describe that meeting. Where did it take place? What happened there?
Well, a couple months after we buried Casey, we were invited to go up to Fort Lewis, Washington State to, what we were told, have a sit-down with the president so he could express, you know, what good wishes of a grateful nation. And so our entire family went up there. We went to the post hospital. We had to go through some very intense security screening, and we sat down in this this tiny room in one of the hospital's you know, waiting rooms, and we sat there. The president came in. We brought about 4 or 5 pictures of Casey from the time he was a baby until you know, he was a soldier. We wanted him to see the pictures of Casey. We wanted to talk about Casey. We decided as a family that we weren't going into any kind of political discussion with him. We wanted to use the short time we had with him to describe what a marvelous person was taken from our family. He didn't look at the pictures. He didn't want to talk about Casey. He kept calling Casey the loved one, you know, to depersonalize Casey as much as he could. He didn't even say him, or, you know, he, of course, didn't use his name or his rank.